Okay, so today we have the front cover from the 330. Obviously I cleaned it off quite a bit. There's still some gunk in here a little bit. So I did the best I could with the power washer. And same thing here with the oil pan. It's fairly clean, but you still see there's a lot of discoloration on the metal, and there's some nicks and crannies I couldn't get in. So we're gonna take these over to Brett's shop right now, and we're going to use his sandblasting cabinet to get these. They should be looking pretty much brand new. So we're gonna go do that right now. All right, so just finished sandblasting these. Got the timing cover here. It's not perfect. If I blasted it for longer, this metal would kind of have a uniform finish. It looks like a little cloudy, but overall, you know, looks really good. All the varnish is gone off the inside too. And we replaced these studs and bolts with some OEM zinc plated ones. And yeah, everything is looking good. There's a little tiny bit of corrosion in this coolant pipe hole, but other than that, everything looks nice. Same thing, we got the oil pan here. Everything looks pretty good. Obviously much better than it was. There's a few spots that, you know, I didn't get perfectly, and you can see this is kind of cloudy as well. But we got new hardware in here. Overall, I'm really satisfied. If we flip that over, looks pretty good in here. I couldn't get completely under this kind of semi-baffle, but it's gonna work for me. I was considering possibly installing an oil pan baffle, and now would be a good time to do it since I kind of got off all the oil deposits. It'd be a good time to be able to weld in here. Achilles Motorsports is in Fresno, and they sell baffle kits for these cars, so it might be something that I pick up, but you know, I'm not too concerned about it right now. But really glad I got these clean, and that's that. All right, guys, I said I would put more work into making my videos, and this is proof. We got a pry bar and a traffic cone, and then I stole that little clamp off of a ring light. So we got a phone stand. If this doesn't live up to your expectations of what I was gonna do, then you should know that you should not have very high expectations. Okay, so today we are going to be installing this Seems Legit Garage oil chain tensioner. And so to do that, they sent me this little 3D printed template with where to drill holes in the block, and I will show you how we're gonna install it. It's a little too short to like line up perfectly. Like if I line that up, then the bottom it's close. So I guess I'll kind of split the difference. So that big hole is where the tensioner mounts, and then that little hole is where this little spring will be inserted to provide tension. So this is gonna be right just like this, and then it'll take all the slack out of the chain. I just realized I don't have a punch, and I want to punch that so that when I drill it with my drill bit, it doesn't walk all over the place, and I don't, you know, risk moving this template all over the place. So I'm gonna go buy one. Okay, that worked perfectly. So we got our big hole right there, and then punch is too big for the template, so I just use a screwdriver to mark that one, and we got our holes. All right, so we have the bolt that the tensioner mounts on right here, and according to the instructions, I was supposed to receive a tap with it, and maybe I did, but clearly you've seen my unboxing situation, so if they did send me a tap, I don't know where it is. So I'm gonna have to use my own tap. And to use my own tap, I need to know what size this bolt is. So I have a digital caliper here. You see that it measures right at a little under 7. We're floating around 6.9 millimeters. And if I take my M7x1 tap, oh, camera's not focusing, but looks like the threads line up perfectly between them. So we're gonna tap it with an M7x1 tap, and hopefully it works. And then my tap kit comes with a drill bit size sheet. So you can see M7x1, we wanna drill it with a 6 millimeter drill bit. So I don't have metric drill bits. I only have standard drill bits. So we're gonna use this little chart on the inside of my drill bit case, and it looks like a 15/64 is 5.9 millimeters. So maybe we'll try that, and then if the tap is too tight, we can bump it up to 1/4 inch, which is gonna be 6.4 millimeters. Okay, well, I royally did a terrible job. That is an oval that I just made in that engine block. So I'm gonna think a little bit about what I should do about that. And I'm also going to clean all these metal shavings off of the inside of my engine. Before I decide if I'm gonna do something drastic about that hole, I'm just gonna drill the other one. That way I only have to clean once. Okay, so I did not do that hole very well, and I thought I would just run a tap through it and see how the threads felt. And I haven't tried to tighten anything into those threads yet, but it's only a few threads that are actually look like can even hold anything. I made sure that an M8 bolt would fit through the same sleeve that is included in the tensioner kit that the bolt has to go through, and it does. So I'm just gonna tap it out to an M8, and then I'm gonna have to find a different bolt to install the tensioner with. So, oops. All right, so we got this tapped out to an M8x1. You can see it's still very far from ideal. This section over here on the right is particularly the worst. So I definitely need some drilling in a straight line lessons. Okay, so it literally took me getting to the hardware store to realize I didn't even tap the hole with the tap that I meant to use. I meant to use an M8 by 1 tap, but I use an M8 by 125 tap, so oops. Anyways, I found this M8 by 125 bolt. It has the 8mm, you know, little flat part on it, and then it has a nice flange, so it you know, should stay tight, and it's just about the same dimensions as the old bolt, so I think that's what we're going with. Okay, once again, I'm an idiot, and I didn't read the instructions on the tensioner install, so I should have waited to drill this hole until I saw if this little spring would actually bend that far, and it doesn't. So I guess there's some variation in how much the springs bend, and I'm gonna drill another hole where I kind of scratched that thing right here, because I scratched that with the end of the spring, so it can, I know it can bend that far, but it can't bend that far. So I'm gonna drill that, and then it should be good. Okay, so I tried to torque that bolt to the 16 Newton meters that the instructions specified, and I stripped out the hole. So I'm just gonna clean, and we're gonna deal with that another time, because I'm kind of tired with installing this right now. Okay, so day 2 or 3 of working on this tensioner. Got our bigger bolts to install. I got a couple sizes from the hardware store. This is the little collar that the tensioner bolt goes through, and I intended to have it turn on a lathe to widen out the middle so I could use a bigger bolt. And when I took it to a mechanic shop and asked them to do that, they just stuck it in a vise and drilled a hole in it with a hand drill. So the work is definitely not perfect on it, and they also squished it a little bit in their vise. So thank you, mechanic shop. Anyways, I think it'll still work, but I am going to just clean up the inside of it with a Dremel a little bit, because it's a pretty tight fit on the M10 bolt right now. Okay, well, with a bleeding hand and about 10 times longer than it was supposed to take, I have the tensioner installed. As you can see, I had to drill yet another spring hole, because that one was, you know, I couldn't fit it in that one. But we drilled it out to M10, tapped it, I drilled a straight hole, and got some new washers. Actually, I reused some old washers. And there we go. This install has been the epitome of cut 3 times, measure once. Not a good way to do things. So read the instructions before you do something, and measure, and make sure you drill straight holes, and you won't end up like me. So this video is my gift to you. Please remember it if you ever do this, so that you don't have to suffer like me. All right, so I said I wasn't gonna take the oil filter housing off, but I wanted to clean it, so I figured I would. And another surprise, we got some brokenness going on in here, and this bolt was also extremely hard to remove, and it didn't look like it was cross-threaded, but it did look like it was bent. So I'm gonna get this cleaned up, and then we'll see if that's a problem we need to address, or if we could just throw it back on the way it is. Okay, so give you a good look at this. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 mounting holes, and this one was obviously destroyed. I don't know how that happened. Maybe they dropped it. I don't know. I'm not completely convinced that this defect is that important. I think this would probably go back on and be fine. However, it is a decent excuse for me to go ahead and just do this now rather than later. And that is to take the S54 housing off and use that on my M54 so that I can install an oil cooler. Yeah, I might as well do it because I was planning on doing it anyways. So let's take that off. I just love the little surprises that I'm left with. I took the housing off and I was like, hey, why do I have 6 holes and 5 bolts? Well, that's because they didn't even put this one in. And if you look in there, you can tell that they tried, and then they failed, and then they drilled it out to a bigger bolt, and they tapped it, and then I'm guessing they failed that too for some reason. Otherwise that bolt would be there, but it's not there. So, not like I have much room to talk after that whole situation, but fun stuff! Alright, so I decided to not weld this nut right now because I just cleaned the entire engine with gasoline, and I was about to start welding, but thankfully I have not blown myself up yet. So I'm gonna let this gas evaporate. I cleaned up what I could, and we'll just weld it at another time. So I think that's probably enough for this episode. Stay tuned for the next one. We will be putting hopefully all this back together. I want to get the subframe on so I can get the transmission out. And then we're also going to be prepping the rear end to go in. So getting the rear under panel all ready to be welded on, and installing new bushings in the rear end, and a few other things. So that's the plan. See you later.